At just 31 years old, Bryshere Gray, once known worldwide for his iconic role as Hakeem Lyon on the hit television series Empire, has become the subject of heartbreaking headlines. His life story, filled with talent, fame, and early success, has also been marred by personal struggles, legal battles, and an overwhelming spiral that left fans stunned. What makes his story so tragic is how quickly the bright light of his career dimmed. Once celebrated as the future of hip-hop on screen, his real-life choices and challenges became far more dramatic than any fictional role he portrayed. Today, we're uncovering the reality behind the man who seemed to have it all, only to face a collapse few could have imagined. Born in Philadelphia in 1993, Bryshere grew up with music in his veins. As a teenager, he was already performing under the stage name Yaz the Greatest, captivating audiences with his natural charisma. His energy, ambition, and determination quickly opened doors in the entertainment industry. By his early 20s, Bryshere wasn't just a young rapper trying to make it, he was a star with a leading role on Fox's Empire, a show that brought him international fame almost overnight. But as quickly as his star rose, the pressures of fame, unresolved personal issues, and poor choices sent him into a downward spiral. This is the heartbreaking story of how it all went so wrong. Bryshere Gray grew up in Philadelphia, a city with a long history of shaping talented musicians and performers. Raised by a single mother, his childhood was far from easy. Money was scarce, opportunities were limited, and Gray often found himself searching for an outlet where he could channel his frustrations and creativity. For him, that outlet was hip-hop. By the time he was 16, he was performing on the streets, in small local venues, and at community events. His passion for performance caught the eye of producers and mentors who encouraged him to pursue his talent more seriously. It was during this time that he adopted the moniker Yaz the Greatest, a name that symbolized the confidence he carried, even when the odds were stacked against him. His performances blended youthful energy with raw honesty, a combination that resonated with audiences. What many didn't know was that behind the vibrant persona was a young man struggling with deep insecurities and the weight of responsibility at a very young age. Those early challenges would stay with him, even as his career skyrocketed. In 2015, Bryshere Gray's life changed forever. He landed the role of Hakeem Lyon, the youngest son of the Lyon family, on Empire. The show, created by Lee Daniels, became a cultural phenomenon, blending soap opera drama with the glitz of the music industry. As Hakeem, Bryshere embodied a troubled yet charismatic young rapper fighting for attention in a cutthroat industry. The role was a perfect fit, so much so that fans sometimes blurred the line between the character and the actor himself. Empire became an instant hit, and Bryshere's performance earned him critical acclaim. His songs on the show became chart-worthy hits, and suddenly, he wasn't just an actor, he was a bona fide music star. Overnight, he went from a Philadelphia street performer to one of Hollywood's most promising young talents. Yet, with fame came immense pressure. Bryshere was thrust into a world of wealth, attention, and expectations that few 21-year-olds could handle. The very role that made him a household name also became the weight that eventually pulled him down. Behind the cameras, Bryshere struggled with the same issues that plagued his character on Empire. Fame brought money and attention, but it also magnified his insecurities. Friends and colleagues began noticing his erratic behavior, fueled by sleepless nights, impulsive decisions, and clashes with those close to him. Instead of enjoying the success he had earned, Bryshere often appeared to be battling an inner storm. Publicly, he was a star. Privately, he was a young man overwhelmed by the pressures of celebrity life. He began distancing himself from longtime friends and mentors, replacing them with individuals who fed into his celebrity status rather than grounding him. The balance between Bryshere Gray and Hakeem Lyon became blurred, and the lines between reality and fiction started to collapse. What the world didn't know was that Bryshere was headed toward a dangerous path that would eventually destroy his career and tarnish his reputation. As Empire progressed through its seasons, rumors about Bryshere's off-screen troubles began to circulate. Reports of missed appearances, conflicts on set, and personal struggles became frequent. While his co-stars attempted to support him, it became increasingly clear that Bryshere was not coping well with the demands of stardom. His youthful charm and talent were overshadowed by whispers of unreliability. In 2019, the end of Empire coincided with a turning point in Bryshere's life. Without the structure of the show and the steady work it provided, he began to unravel further. The stability that acting brought was gone, leaving him vulnerable to his inner demons. While many fans assumed he would move into music or other acting projects, Bryshere instead began making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The cracks that had been forming for years were about to split wide open. In July 2020, Bryshere Gray was arrested in Goodyear, Arizona, after a disturbing domestic violence incident involving his wife. Reports stated that she had suffered multiple injuries during the altercation and had to flag down a passing motorist for help. The situation escalated into a standoff with police, ending in Bryshere's arrest. For fans who had once admired him as the charming and talented Hakeem Lyon, the news was devastating. The arrest marked a turning point in Bryshere's public image. No longer was he seen as the young star who had risen against all odds. Instead, he was now a cautionary tale of how quickly fame could corrupt and destroy. Social media exploded with reactions, ranging from shock to disappointment. Overnight, Bryshere's reputation crumbled, and any chance of reviving his once promising career seemed to vanish. The legal consequences of Bryshere's actions were severe. In 2021, he pleaded guilty to felony aggravated assault and was sentenced to 10 days in jail, along with 3 years of probation. He was also required to participate in domestic violence counseling and community service. Though the sentence may have seemed lenient compared to the charges, it left an indelible mark on his career and reputation. Hollywood, known for giving second chances, kept its distance. No major networks or film studios were willing to take a risk on him. Instead of red carpets and music stages, Bryshere's reality became court appearances and probation check-ins. The man who once captivated millions was now defined by a mugshot, a court case, and a tragic downfall. It was clear that Bryshere's greatest battle would not be in the spotlight but within himself. In the years following his arrest, reports suggested that Bryshere was struggling with mental health issues, including bipolar disorder. His erratic behavior, explosive temper, and inability to manage fame all pointed to deeper struggles that had long gone untreated. Friends close to him revealed that he had difficulty staying consistent with treatment, often refusing help when it was offered. This lack of stability made it nearly impossible for him to rebuild his career. Even when opportunities seemed to present themselves, Bryshere's inability to stay grounded created barriers. Mental health professionals emphasized the importance of ongoing care, but like so many others in similar situations, Bryshere found it difficult to accept. His story became not just one of fame loss but also of the urgent need for greater support systems for young stars thrust into the spotlight. By 2023, Bryshere Gray had all but disappeared from Hollywood. Fans occasionally spotted him in Philadelphia, living a far quieter life than the one he had once enjoyed. Social media, which once amplified his every move, now showcased only rare glimpses into his private world. While some fans held out hope that he would stage a comeback, others accepted that Bryshere's time in the spotlight had come to a tragic end. Living in the shadows was not easy for someone who had once commanded massive attention. The contrast between his glamorous past and his quieter, troubled present was stark. While his co-stars moved on to new projects and successes, Bryshere remained haunted by his mistakes and struggles. The silence surrounding him only fueled speculation, leaving fans to wonder what had truly become of the young man they once admired. Despite the tragedy of his fall, there were moments where Bryshere attempted to rebuild his life. Reports suggested that he was working on new music, hoping to release songs independently. He also appeared to focus more on personal healing, attending counseling sessions and trying to stay out of the headlines. While these steps were small, they demonstrated his desire for redemption. However, rebuilding a career after such a public downfall is no easy feat. Hollywood's memory can be short, but the stigma of his actions lingered heavily. Even within the music industry, doors remained closed. While fans wanted to support him, the shadow of his past was difficult to escape. For Bryshere, redemption would not come through fame but through personal accountability and growth. The tragedy of Bryshere Gray serves as a sobering lesson about the dangers of fame, the importance of mental health, and the consequences of destructive choices. His rise and fall reflect the fragility of success in Hollywood, where one mistake can erase years of hard work. Yet, beyond the headlines and scandals, his story is also about a young man overwhelmed by pressures he could not control. Bryshere's downfall isn't just about personal failure, it's about an industry that often elevates young stars without preparing them for the realities of fame. His story forces us to ask important questions. How can we better support young artists? How do we address the mental health crisis in entertainment? And most importantly, how do we ensure that tragedies like this don't continue to repeat themselves? As of 2025, Bryshere Gray is just 31 years old, a man still young enough to rebuild his life, yet already marked by a tragedy that feels irreversible. He remains largely absent from Hollywood, focusing instead on personal healing and attempting to live outside the spotlight. Fans continue to hope for his comeback, but the scars of his past linger. His story is a heartbreaking reminder that fame is fleeting, and without stability, it can consume those who are unprepared. The tragedy of Bryshere Gray is not just about a lost career, it's about a life derailed by unaddressed struggles, impulsive choices, and the crushing weight of fame. At 31, his future remains uncertain, but one thing is clear: his journey is both a cautionary tale and a heartbreaking tragedy that will never be forgotten by those who once cheered for him.